welcome to Highland Showcase, bringing you a snapshot of life in the Highlands of Scotland. Today, I'm going to Glenmorangie Distillery, where last year was a fantastic year for them. Not only were they named the UK Spirit Producer of the Year, but also a global distiller too. But first of all, let's take a look at what's in this week's show. I try a spot of whisky tasting. Mimi from Mimi's Hats introduces us to millinery in the Highlands. I go behind the scenes at MFR to see what's kept the Highlands listening for over 30 years. And Ronnie meets some junior firefighters in Invergordon. Glenmorangie Distillery has been producing whisky from the shores of the Dornoch Firth just outside Tain since 1843, when a former distillery manager, William Matheson, acquired Morangie Farm, which already had a brewery on site using the farm's water source, Tarlogie Spring. He converted this into a distillery using 2 second-hand gin stills, and later named it Glenmorangie. The rain which falls around Tain takes over 100 years on its mineral gathering journey to the distillery. When combined with locally grown barley and the tallest stills in Scotland, the men of Tain produce Glenmorangie whisky. I handed my car keys to the crew and I met distillery manager Andy MacDonald, who explained the process a little further. Okay, Glenmorangie is an iconic whisky. What is it that makes it so unique?
Yeah, it certainly is iconic, and I think the unique thing about Glenmorangie is it's been in Tain. Tain's the home of Glenmorangie. It's been here since 1843, so there's a lot of tradition, a lot of history associated with the distillery and the skill and the craftsmanship that go along with that. But there's a few key things that make Glenmorangie so unique, and one of them is the water. The water that we use that comes from Tarlogie Springs. The spring water has always been used for making Glenmorangie, and the unique thing about it is that there's a lot of minerals in the water, so it gives flavour and it gives texture to the whisky. The second thing that's so unique about Glenmorangie are the tall stills that we have for distillation. So these stills, if you imagine a fully grown giraffe, that is the height of our stills here, and these stills are the tallest of any malt distillery in Scotland. So it makes a very unique, a very pure and fresh spirit that we can go forward for maturation. And the third thing that's very unique about Glenmorangie is the casks that we use for maturation. The casks are the top quality casks, and we use casks from America, ex-bourbon casks, and we only use our casks twice, so first and second fill is what we classify that as. And that gives the whisky a very fresh, a very, how would you describe it? The maturation process is very key and very vital. So it gives the whisky about 60% of its flavour, and because we only use the cask twice, we get the best of the flavour coming out of that wood. So a combination of these things and the skill and the craftsmanship of the people who work here make Glenmorangie the iconic whisky that it is.
Now, can you take us through the process where you take the water and you take the barley and you turn it into something like Glenmorangie?
Yeah, well, it sounds very easy, and in effect it is a very simple process, and there's only three raw materials. You've got water, you have yeast, and we have malted barley. Very simple. It's how we create that spirit and the whisky going through the process. So the first thing we do is we take the malted barley, which comes from the maltings locally. We take it, we grind it into like a flour consistency, a grist we call it, and then we add the hot water. This heated from Tarlogie, comes down from Tarlogie. We heat it here, and we add the water to the ground malted barley, and that makes what we call worts. So if you imagine, it's like taking sugar and putting it into your cup of tea and dissolving the sugar. That's what we're doing in the mashing process. So we dissolve the sugars that are in the malted barley. So these sugars then go forward for fermentation. This is where the yeast comes in. So we add the yeast, and after 52 hours, the yeast has converted the sugar into alcohol. So we've got the alcohol at this point. But more importantly, as we do that, we get these very fruity, estery type flavours being created during the fermentation. So this is adding to the character of Glenmorangie. So after fermentation, we put the wash, it's called at that point. The wash is taken down for distillation through these big tall stills that I talked about, as tall as a giraffe. So we distill off only the purest and most fruity and vibrant vapours, the alcohol. We distill that off. So we remove what we call the heart, or the ishkipi, where the word whisky comes from. So we remove the heart every time. So we take the best part of the distillation process out, and that goes forward for maturation. And we take the spirit, we mature it in the finest cask from America for at least 10 years. And at the end of it, we have a very top quality whisky that everybody knows and loves, the Glenmorangie.
Now the barley, you only use Scottish barley.
Yeah.
At Glenmorangie. How do you choose what barley to use?
Well, we have contracts set up, some deals set up with local farmers. I always talk about the Glenmorangie territory. The French talk about wines and their terroir. The areas round about that area where they're making the wines. Well, Glenmorangie, I have my own territory. So the territory is the local area, and we like to buy as much local barley as possible. Keep it close to the distillery. So we have contracts with farmers locally. So they grow the barley for us, and then it goes to the maltings locally to be converted into malted barley, and it comes back to the distillery. So that is important, to keep everything as local as possible to the distillery, and only the top quality barleys is what we use for making the Glenmorangie.
And being local, there's nothing more local than the Men of Tain.
Absolutely, yeah. The 16 Men of Tain, and we actually have more than that now. We have more because the distillery's got bigger over the years. So we have the Men of Tain, who are the skilled craftsmen who've been making the whisky over generations. Because since 1843, we're now into our 5th generation of employee at the distillery, and some of the employees here now, the Men of Tain, their fathers and their fathers' fathers and their fathers' fathers' fathers have worked at the distillery. So it's a key part of the process is the skill and the craftsmanship that these guys put into making the Glenmorangie whisky.
Now you touched on it earlier, the casks that you actually mature the whisky in.
Yeah.
They really decide on the flavour and the colour?
Yeah, no, absolutely. When we make the ishkipi, as I call it, the new make spirit as it comes out of the still, there's no colour at all. It looks like crystal clear water. Okay, so all the colour is coming from the maturation. A lot of the flavour as it comes out of the still, the distillery character is already there. So I mentioned earlier about some of these fruity characters, very floral, very sweet characters. That's in the new make spirit before it goes into the cask. But what we're doing in the cask is we're adding some of the flavours coming out of the wood, because we use the bourbon casks, which is oak, made from oak from America. So as the whisky goes into the cask, over the years, some of the extractives come out of the wood. So you get flavours like coconut, vanilla, these type of flavours coming out of the wood, and the whisky is maturing all the time. It's growing as it matures. So at the end of the 10-year period of maturation, these casks have imparted maybe about 60% of the flavour that you'll get in the final bottle. So the casks are very, very important. And at Glenmorangie, we pride ourselves on the fact that we always use the top quality casks. That's what we always go for. Quality is number one here.
Now we're going to be doing a little bit of tasting.
Yes.
Which whisky is this we're going to be trying?
Well, we've got the 10-year-old original, which is the biggest selling Glenmorangie, and this whisky has been matured for at least 10 years, because it says that on the bottle. So it's been 10 years in an American barrel, and it's maybe a first fill American barrel and a second fill American barrel, so it's a mixture of the two. So we get a very fine colour. What I'll do is I'll pour the whisky. A nice big dram in the morning. So the 10-year-old original Glenmorangie, the things that we're looking for are the colour. Okay, so we talked about the colour coming from the cask, from the wood. This is a nice rich amber colour, not too dark. So it's been 10 years in the barrel, first and second fill casks. So it's got this fantastic colour about it. And when you swirl it around in the glass here, and then let it settle back down again, you'll see these tears arriving, tears pouring down the side of the glass.
Yes.
It takes a while. If you hold it up to the light, you'll see it. You have the tide mark, and then the tears will appear from there. So this is telling us a couple of different things. First, that the whisky is going to be very rich and have a very thick texture. Okay, so it's going to be like cream and velvet in the mouth. And it's also telling me that it's a quite strong whisky. So the tears, the longer they take to come, the more delicious and the more texture the whisky's going to have. Do you want to smell?
Okay.
So, we put our nose right in the glass here. And what you try and do is just have your nose at the top of the glass, open your mouth, and breathe in at the same time through your mouth and your nose. Not an easy thing to do.
That's quite a different experience than just breathing in through your nose.
It is, yeah. You get the full effect, the olfactory effect in the nose and the mouth. So you can get the aromas. We're looking for the aromas in the whisky. Because Glenmorangie is full of aromas, beautiful, delicious aromas. And the first aroma I get here, first of all, is sweetness.
Yes.
Yeah, like honey, heather honey. There's a bit of coconut aroma coming through, some vanilla, like vanilla custard. But there's also a freshness to it, like citrus, oranges, peaches, lemons, these kind of aromas coming through. It smells very delicious, so why don't we have a wee taste at the strength,
okay.
Oh, fantastic. The first thing I get is the texture. I talked about this texture.
Yes, yeah.
Very creamy, very velvety. The whisky just sort of coats the tongue like syrup or honey around the tongue. So the texture is coming from a couple of different places. Firstly from the water, the Tarlogie water that I spoke about, and then the fermentation. So it is a very creamy, delicious whisky. But the flavours afterwards, after the texture's kind of melted away, I'm getting these very fresh, citrusy flavours in the mouth. I don't know if you're getting that as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Kind of crisp after the warmness, the crispness comes through.
Exactly, yeah, like a crisp, biting into a crisp apple, or a very citrusy orange, or a mandarin, or a peach even, I always think like Glenmorangie 10-year-old is like having peaches and cream, or a vanilla ice cream. It brings back all these memories of different places that you've been, or different foods that you've tasted, or memories of people that you've met, and that's what I like so much about it. And it's such a delicious flavour. We'll try adding a little bit of water because it makes quite a big difference, to the aroma and to the flavour. Just a wee drop it. So when you add the water, what's happening in the glass? The temperature rises slightly because the water reacts with the whisky that's in there, and because of that we get this sort of explosion of aromas going on inside the glass. So we should get a lot more intensity of aromas. So put your nose in, see if you can detect anything else.
That's quite different.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a more, woody, a bit smoky side.
Again, a smokiness. I certainly get a lot more intensity in the citrusy and the orange type flavours coming through, the peaches. It's changed it dramatically. It's very, very sweet. That honey is really intense now. I've got some mandarins, toffee, fudge.
Yes.
Yeah, these sort of vanilla type fudge. It's absolutely delicious. I have a small taste. Ooh. It is so smooth, isn't it? There's no burn in it at all. It just silks down the throat, sort of coating the throat as it goes down. And the aftertaste, it goes on for quite a long time afterwards. And it's a very fresh, vibrant flavour. So there's no harshness to this whisky at all. It's a very smooth, very delicate, but quite complex whisky. There's a lot of different flavours going on inside the mouth there. It's quite delicious.
Adding the water really does make a difference.
Aye, it does, yeah. So, cheers.
Cheers. Well, there you go. Glenmorangie, a little bit of history in a glass. Slán go bhfuil. Join us after the break, where Mimi shows off some of her feathered creations.
The Highlands and Islands is home to some of the most creative and talented people. With its harsh and rugged landscapes, it's no surprise that local craftsmen are truly inspired by this. Now let's think, we've got ceramics, art, jewellery, spinning, weaving, dyeing, wool. The endless array of crafts on offer, well, it's endless. Now, we've all heard of the Whisky Trail, but now the Highlands and Islands offer a craft trail. And basically, this is to encourage the tourists to explore and discover the vast array of artisans that the Highlands have to offer. Fashion is not about conforming to someone else's ideals on how you should dress. What I want to do is inspire women to have the confidence to express who they are and show them all that we all have our own unique sense of personal style. And as they say, it's not what you wear, but how you wear it. Here you can see is a 1950s style dress. Now this outfit was worn for Royal Ascot and got lots and lots of press. It's a polka dot dress, and it's really the accessories that make this outfit stand out in the crowd. You've got her umbrella, you've got the shoes, they all coordinate with each other. And then the finishing touches is the hat, a big, large, wide hat, big statement. And to make that wow factor, you can see turkey feathers have been sculptured and curled, and you get this big explosion type of effect. Hats are not just great for weddings and races, but they're also very popular at cocktail parties. And here you can see something really is just a little bit of fun, and this has been created through the use of cock feathers. Now this outfit was seen at Royal Ascot, and as you can see the headpiece is created from turkey feathers, and it's been sprayed gold, and it was very much inspired by the movie Gladiator. And she's wearing this beautiful gold silk top and accessorised with all the black statement jewellery. Sometimes the most simplest of outfits can be the most amazing ones that catches your eyes. And here we have my mum modelling one of my hats. And as you can see, it's a top hat, but it's actually been created through a wire frame, which gives that sort of a modern twist to the outfit. My name's Mimi, and I'm a local lassie from the Highlands of Scotland. But at the tender age of 17, I left the area and joined the British Army and trained as a nurse. However, since I had my little girl, I was drawn back to the Highlands, and I think that's because, in my opinion, this is the best place to bring up kids. So here I am, based in Inverness, as a recognised milliner, in other words, hat maker, as well as stylist and designer. Millinery is a craft that not many of us do anymore. There was a time when you would have found a milliner in every village, much like a cobbler, but those days are well and truly behind us now. But hats are back, and we have the Duchess of Cambridge to thank for that, because she has made them very much glamorous again. Now, making a hat is a long and complicated process, and it all starts with the wooden hat blocks, and you get, there's million and one different styles and shapes you can have. But you start off with your wooden hat block, and then you use different materials such as straws or wool felts, fur felts, which you then block over the shape. This is then stiffened, and then you have to wire it, and then you, as I did earlier, you end up with something like this. And then once that's all completed and you've sewn in all your ribbons, then it's the fun bit when you get to trim up the hat. Okay, so here we have is a pheasant feather. And what I'm just about to do now is I'm going to strip one side of the feather. See, the aim is I don't really want this to look like it's a feather that I've just found outside. So I strip one side, just like that. And now I'm about to curl it. Now I do this with a pair of scissors or a knife, or sometimes with a little bit of a heat under an iron. Here you can see the feather quickly curls. There we go, so that's a curled pheasant feather. But working with pheasant feathers, it's all different sort of ways. As I made this earlier, you can see this is from the bird. So as you can see, these feathers here actually come from the breast of the pheasant. I'm very much inspired by the materials and the textures that the Highland has to offer. In particular, working with pheasant feathers, which is great fun because I can strip them, I can curl them, I can dye them, and then what you end up with is a work of art. Wearing a hat is very much like the icing on the cake. And here we have Margaret. Hi Margaret. And Margaret's going to Royal Ascot this year. And as you can see, I've created a hat for her, which complements the outfit. Now, the reason why I love what I do so much is because the millinery presents so many challenges. I mean, first of all, you have the outfit with the colours, and then you've got your accessories, with the shoes, the bag, and the jewellery, and then you've got the wearer. And so you've got to take into account their hair, the way they're wearing their hair, their makeup. The most important thing that I have to capture when I create a hat for someone is their personality. And as you can see here, Margaret has a lot of personality. And with these sort of feathers, she definitely will stand out at Ascot this year. There we go. There's a wee twirl. Now, so many of you at home will probably be thinking that I don't suit wearing a hat. I beg to differ. Everyone suits wearing a hat. It's just more of a case of you haven't found the right style. So, as they say, if you want to get ahead, wear a hat.
For over 30 years, the airwaves of the Highlands have been treated to the sounds of Moray Firth Radio. Since February 1982, they've been broadcasting from their studios in Scourgouie in Inverness to an area the size of Belgium. MFR have gone from spearheading local radio to being so much more.
It's an absolutely huge area to cover for a radio station of our size. So we go from Wick in the north, right across to Fraserburgh in the east, along the east coast, and then down as far as Aviemore. And for 3 decades we have managed to keep our listeners entertained, informed, and our listeners are very accommodating. Over half the population listen to MFR every day. Which is incredible in these times when you consider the multi-platform approach that we've now got and the social networking that everyone seems to engage in. Yet more than half the population will listen to us for information, for entertainment. And not only that, they listen for on average almost 13 hours a week, which is incredible. But I think that part of that is down to our ability to connect with the communities that we serve. And we always say this is a radio station for the north of Scotland, so we're mindful of the fact that our listeners shape the sound of the radio station. So we always say to them, you know, what do you like? What don't you like? What do we do well? What can we do better? And it's remarkable how over the years they have shaped the radio station to what they want to hear.
Hello there, good morning, I'm Titch McCooey. I'll be with you right the way through till 2 today. Ernie Els won his 3rd major, his first British Open in the year that we're looking at. And also this year the party in the Palace took place at Buckingham Palace. But what was the year that happened? I've actually been at MFR since they started all those years ago, which was in 1982. The first ever show on MFR was on a Tuesday. It was Pancake Tuesday that they did the first show. I myself was here from the Saturday of that week. I used to do the chart show. Then I'd come in and compile a chart, put it all together, phone the shops in the area, and then do the show. Eventually I moved on from that. I started to do a wee bit of holiday relief, which would get me the daytime shows as well. And then I'd do the daytime shows. And then I got a show myself, which was the lunchtime show, which was really good. That was the sort of the first one I did on a full-time kind of basis. And then I did a stint on mid-morning. I would do a stint on the breakfast show as well. Eventually I got the breakfast show, which meant starting nice and early in the morning. I'm not a big fan of early mornings, but I managed to do it all right for the breakfast show because it was quite enjoyable. It's fun to do. I enjoyed doing that kind of show. So then I got on the breakfast show. I was there for donkey's years. I can't even remember how long I was there, but I was there for ages. And I would still be doing sort of discos at night and stuff. So I would get like 2 hours sleep and come in and do the show. And if I was getting really tired as I was doing it, which could happen, I would end up on the floor behind me down there. I'd have a sleep for about 3 minutes. I'd get my co-presenter to give me a nudge to wake me up. And Nicky Marr had to do that a few times. Not a lot, I hasten to add. It was just a few times that would happen. So that was quite good and enjoyable, good fun to do and everything. I did fall asleep once later in the show. I remember it quite well. It was about 20 to 9 in the morning. I can't remember what day of the week it was, but it was about 20 to 9 in the morning. I remember that because there was a big gap. Obviously, the song ended, and Nicky Marr couldn't have been there. Nobody was here with me to wake me up. And I think it was Duncan ran through from the sales team. He ran through and, Titch, wake up. And I just sort of sat up.
That was the morning when our lovable Titch McCooey used to do the pantomime each night, do the breakfast show in the morning, and sometimes do discos as he still does in the area. And there was one morning I was in early. I think it was actually to do an outside broadcast. Anyway, we were in early, and there's radios throughout the whole of the station blaring out what we're putting out in output. So it's always a noisy place, the station. It's good. But this morning there was this silence came across the station, which is unheard of in the station. And everybody starts looking at each other and starts getting a bit twitchy. Is it a technical problem or something like that? Then all of a sudden we realised Mr. McCooey had fallen asleep during his song and never wasn't there. So anyway, I raced from the sales office, burst through the studio doors, which is something you're not allowed to do with the red light up. But burst through anyway, shouting, "Titch, Titch!" And Titch in one movement woke up, put up the fader and announced his next song, the true professional he was. Just, that's what happens in the station. It's good fun, good laugh and good folk.
Obviously been a lot of changes over the years. I mean, we're on computer now, everything's on computer, the music's on computer, all the adverts are on computer. In the old days, you'd play vinyl. We had all the CDs, a box beside us with all the CDs in it. And also the adverts, you had to look them out. There was a rack behind us that had all the adverts in it, and you'd have to sort of look them out in advance. You used to get the whole hour's worth out. You'd have them on a shelf beside you, so you could just play them as you were going along. These days now it's all on the system over here, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. In fact, you don't even know what's in the next break. Back then you would know what's in the break because you'd have looked them all out. But now you don't. You just hit the button and it goes off and plays them all on their own. You just sit here doing that. We're doing the golden years at the moment on the show, which means that we've got stuff coming in. There's text messages coming in, there'll be emails coming in, people are phoning in as well. So we get all that. So it's a lot more stuff going on than it used to be in the old days. In the old days, someone would send you a letter. So it would take a lot of, they were really it was quite serious if they sent you a letter. Not that it would be a complaint, usually it was requests and things, but these days you can have a thought and you can send it straight through, so it's instantaneous, more than it was. And it was even pretty instantaneous back then, but it's pretty instantaneous now. You get folk getting in touch with you constantly throughout the show. In fact, having said that, I best get back, and there's calls coming in, and I better have a look at the text that come in for the golden years, see if they're getting the year right today.
If you run the company like a football team, it's very like that. So I'm the manager of a team. And so you've obviously got your front team who are the guys that are on air, and that can be, your presenters, news people, sport. And then you've got your backroom staff and the folk who do the graft and who sell airtime and keep the station solvent. So it's very much a team effort, and I'm the leader of that team. News is really important to a radio station like ours in terms of getting into the communities, finding out what the topics are that are important to our listeners. And that's really important. It's not good enough for a local radio station just to take national news. That's not what we're about, and that's never what we've been about. We're about providing local news for the local communities, and that's been hugely successful.
Good evening, Caley Thistle manager Terry Butcher says he can't wait for Saturday's League Cup semi-final with Hearts. The Inverness side are braced for their first ever game at this stage of the competition.
In terms of sport in the north of Scotland, in the past year I think we've enjoyed remarkable success with our football teams. With Inverness, Caledonian Thistle and Ross County now both in the Scottish Premier League. It's a fantastic time to be involved in football in the north of Scotland, and we have a great relationship with both clubs. and we provide live commentary. We've got the rights to Scottish Premier League games for these clubs, so that's fantastic. And that was one of the things that the listeners said a number of years ago, that our sports coverage is good, but they would like to hear more from the local clubs. And it's not just about SPL clubs, it's about Highland League, it's about our other clubs that are in other divisions. So it could be about Inverurie Locos or Elgin or whatever. So that's really important to us. Anything significant happening in the north of Scotland, like festivals or really anything that is of any great note, we will be there. MFR has got the highest transmitter in the whole of the UK. It's situated in Cairngorm Mountain. So that's the one that broadcasts to Aviemore and Badenoch and Strathspey. But it's no mean feat for our engineer here to keep all the streams online all of the time. People expect it from us 365 days a year, and when the weather closes in, they don't expect us to go off air. They expect us to be on air, telling them what's going on in the communities. So that's really important for us.
There's always a smile, there's always a laugh, there's always somebody getting the mickey taken out of them, and quite often it's myself that's involved in that as well. And it's a great place to work in that, because everybody does have a smile on their face, everybody's having a laugh and having a giggle, but there's a serious work to be done as well. And as I say, working in that environment, it's not pressure. We are working in the media and there is pressure, so it is a release of having fun, and I think everybody gets on with each other like that, so it's good, it's really good.
Coming up after the break, we have more from MFR, including the Black Widow of Breakfast, country legend Helen McPherson, Drive Time's Jodie McCluskey, Gino tells us about training, and Lindsay gives us an insight into Cash for Kids. And we visit the junior firefighters in Invergordon. Tell us how you ended up here at MFR.
It's quite a long story, but I'll try and keep it short so as not to bore you. I was a solicitor when we lived in Edinburgh. My husband got a job up here working at the theatre, and obviously I came too. Didn't really want to go back into law, but while the kids were tiny, I met someone in the park who worked at the BBC, and she took me in, and I followed her around for a day, met someone there who said I'd be great on air, and literally 4 days later I was co-presenting Breakfast on MFR with Titch McCooey, and that was 12 years ago. So I just fell into it.
And what's life like here at MFR?
Oh my goodness, it's the fastest 4 hours of the day. We come in, we get all sorted, the news starts at 6 o'clock, and literally before you know it, it's 10 o'clock and we're having to quickly wrap up, get out the studio so that Titch can go on and do his show. It's frantic, it's chaotic, it's brilliant fun, but of course it's controlled chaos. It's great, absolutely fantastic, wouldn't swap it for the world.
12 years, you've been the steady arm of the breakfast show. You've gone through 3 separate breakfast presenters.
Yes, 3 different co-hosts in my time. The fact that they call me the Black Widow of Breakfast, entirely. There's no justification for that whatsoever. I mean, 3 in 12 years is not too bad. I've got friends who've gone through more husbands in that time. That's I don't know what you're saying.
We offer training throughout the course of the year. We call it the Motherford Media Trust. We're a funded organisation housed in MFR, so we receive use of the facilities, all the studios through MFR. Our main funder is European Social Fund, and we've got a few other pockets of money that come in through different funders. And what we basically do is, it's like an NC, I suppose, equivalent. We're an SQA centre, and we offer a qualification in radio broadcasting. So what you get is hands-on, jobs-on training, where you're learning the whole trade of radio and everything about it. They start learning about scripting, they start learning about using their voice, different the tone, projection, all that sort of thing. We bring in music, we bring in using the studios, using the equipment, all the technicalities, we do outside broadcast work, and this builds and builds and builds. So they go through like a 19-week training programme, and then that's more or less, they get inducted onto the VQ qualification itself. And what we do is the sort of the carrot we dangle, the incentive is, as we lead up to September, they will pitch for their own show ideas. So they won't just say, oh, can I do a show in the morning, or can I do a show in the afternoon? And you say, no, I'm going to do a show, I'm going to have this. There was a guy like last year, he was in his movies, so he had a soundtrack show, so it's all about stuff that you'd hear in the movies, some of the TV shows. So just something different. So they're getting ownership, they're coming up with their own ideas, they're thinking about their target audience, they're producing the show, They're producing all the sort of bits of music they'll use if it's sound effects, like the soundtracks guy, Adam, he had movie clips and stuff like that as well. And for the whole month, they take ownership of an actual radio station. So they've got to worry about legalities, they can't say naughty words, they can't defame anybody, they've got to watch the commercial references. And it's exciting, it's stressful. August leading up to it is a nightmare. September itself is a nightmare because you're, in a sense, they have to apply up to that point. They get interviewed. They're all fighting for their own show, and then you get the egos start to build, and you see them that they're just nice as pie one day to the next, and then when they're on there, it's like, oh, did you hear what they did? Oh, did you see that? Do you know what I mean? So it gets a bit too realistic. It's proper showbiz. But yeah, Monster FM's a great opportunity, and it means at the end of the day, they're going away into potential employers, and they're saying, look, I have actually got 4 weeks worth of shows here. I've done a show for a month. It's gold dust, it's a show reel, and it's pretty good as well from the point of view of our MD, our programmer Danny, because Danny gets a chance to hear this new talent, and a lot of people end up getting some work through MFR out of it.
I fell into radio presenting entirely by accident. I studied to be a newspaper journalist in Edinburgh, and decided that I maybe wanted to put those skills, use them in a different way, and decided that radio was more the option for me. And just kind of Googled various courses, and the Murray Firth Media Trust came up, which was, just perfect because of course it was back up here close to home in the north of Scotland. My plan initially was to be here for 3 months, but I've been here now for 8 years. In July it'll be. And then moved on to do the course. When I started learning more about driving the desk and playing the music and, the way that a show format is developed, it really began to appeal to me. So then I just completely shifted from journalism into radio presenting. I got my first break co-hosting the breakfast show, and then just got a taste for it. And then once I'd finished my VQ course after about a year, I was lucky enough to still do freelancing with the news team, but then also get some cover work, just covering breakfast. Then eventually that led on to getting my own Saturday show every night between 5 and 8 o'clock, and then getting cover work to do the afternoon show when the presenter at the time went off on holiday, evening shows. And then just gradually kept doing that to make the money, and my break came about 2 years ago when a position opened up for MFR Drive Time, and thankfully after a 3-month trial period the boss decided to let me have it. It'll keep me on for a while. So
what's it like working at MFR here?
It's amazing. Do you know, when I was like a teenager, I always remember having a chat with my guidance counsellor, being like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? I always said the one thing, I always wanted to work in media. I knew that, but also I knew how difficult it can be. There's a lot of hard work involved. But also the thing was, I wanted to have a job where you get up in the morning and you're not like, oh, I have to go to work. And I was told, you'll never find something like that. And of course I've managed to prove them wrong. Coming up to work at MFR every day is amazing. Our workforce is fantastic, and no 2 days are the same. Things are different every single day, and it's brilliant too when you get lots of listener interaction. You get to speak to the people who are listening to your show and kind of develop friendships with them over the airwaves. It's a really nice feeling, and I really, really enjoy it. I love working here.
Well, it started off in very early days of Murray Firth in 1982, and because I was a big fan of country music, I was concerned that they would play country music on the radio. I didn't actually want to present or produce myself. I just wanted to lend all my great record collection, and so that the listeners could hear the good country music I had been listening to since the early 70s.
And how has it transpired that you're actually presenting it?
I then got offered to do it because nobody else was interested, so they asked me would I do it, and just by chance I was going to the Wembley Festival in the March, and because I had one or two friends like George Hamilton IV and Boxcar Willie and people like that were appearing at the festival, I knew that I would get in to them and get interviews. So it was great when I came back. Our programme organiser at the time, Brian Anderson, he was just so full of it and said, well, do you want to do the programme? So it was excellent right from the early days. I've been all over America interviewing artists and that. It started, of course, first with going to the Wembley festivals and the Peterborough festivals in the UK, and then I sort of branched out a bit and headed off to Nashville. And I always thought with the Murray Firth press pass you got in everywhere, which you did. And we went to the CMA festivals and things like that and got the access to artists. Well, in the early days I would interview like George Jones and Tammy Wynette and Charlie Pride and people like that. But then, as it advanced, then it was the likes of Garth Brooks and big stars, Shania Twain, who I interviewed in Glasgow. But it was excellent just going to all these festivals and meeting up with the people. And because I'm a big fan myself, I just was so enthusiastic about it, and then letting the listeners hear all about it.
MFR Cash for Kids is the charity arm of Murray Firth Radio. We're a grant giving charity, which means that we're fundraising all year round, and all the money we raise is distributed to children living within the MFR area. What's really important to remember is that all the money we raise stays locally. It stays right here within the Highlands, Murray and Aberdeenshire. There's just the two of us employed by the charity, myself and my colleague Nicola, and we deal with all the fundraising and administration throughout the year. And we have an independent local executive board, and it's up to them to make the grants. They meet twice a year. We open for applications twice a year, once in the spring and once in the autumn, and the board look over every application individually, and they're all judged on their own criteria. We support children from all walks of life. Charities, individuals and community groups can apply. The only set criteria we have is that the money must stay in the MFR area and is to benefit children under the age of 19. That said, in the past 18 months or so, we have seen a huge increase in the amount of applications we receive regarding children and families who are living in severe poverty. In many of these cases, it's through no fault of the family's own. They're struggling to pay the rent, they're struggling to put fuel in the car, they're struggling to keep their children warm over the winter months. So things like Christmas and everyday items that you and I may take for granted have to be forgotten about for these families. And that's where MFR Cash for Kids can step in and support these families by buying essentials. It could be winter clothing for the children, it could be a bed. Real everyday things that we take for granted makes such a difference to these children.
If you ever thought firefighters are getting younger, you're probably right. Highlands and Islands Fire and Rescue Service invited school children from Alness Academy to their training facility in Invergordon to try their hand at becoming a firefighter on their High Fires course. I spoke to area manager Anthony Gardner, who gave us an insight into the course.
High Fires is an initiative whereby we train youngsters in firefighting activities, such as running out hose, using ladders, actually tackling a fire, wearing breathing apparatus. The principle is to use firefighters and, in our area, voluntary and retained firefighters as role models. So hopefully they'll learn discipline and team building from it. It's a 10-week course, and we use children from the local schools. And hopefully it'll make a difference to themselves. We've also got topics such as home fire safety, which is also very important. We've had a number of fires in the local area. So if they can go away and pass the message back to their parents and remember it themselves, then that obviously helps. One of the best weeks is actually where they get to wear breathing apparatus. So we'll fill a room with smoke. They'll put breathing apparatus on, and they'll actually go in and carry out rescues. So you can imagine for children 14, 15 years of age, it's really an ideal opportunity, and it's something that not many people ever get the opportunity to see, let alone get involved in. So the parents are really supportive, the teachers are really supportive, and the firefighters themselves, who I must say in Invergordon are part-time firefighters, so they have day jobs, that they volunteer to do this themselves in their own time. So it really is it demonstrates how in the community we can work together and hopefully make things better for the children and the parents.
So girls, what got you involved in High Fires in the first place?
I got into High Fires with Miss Brown because she asked me if I wanted to do it, and I thought it'd be a good idea because I'm getting told what to do, so I won't be so cheeky.
I thought it'd be a good idea, like future, careers, and it'd be good to train with the firemen.
Up to now in the course, what's been the most enjoyable thing for you?
The most enjoyable thing was going up the ladders and actually seeing what's like up the top.
Squirting the holes in my mates' faces.
So what are you looking forward to the most in the course?
I'm looking forward to going up into the building that's full of smoke to put it out.
I'm looking forward to the first aid, so I can save people's lives when they get older.
I'm hoping to get out of the course some experience in firefighting.
I'm just for career reference when I get older, so I'll be able to know what I'm doing when I do training.
So Charlotte, this course may have inspired you to join the fire service.
Yeah, that's one of my ideas.
That's what I want to do too.
Now you're sporting the firefighting uniform there. In the fashion sticks, how would you rate it out of 10?
10.
Definitely 10.
I think it's giving them lots and lots of self-confidence. It's showing them how to work as teams, how to work cooperatively with each other. It's boosting their self-esteem, and I think generally it's just making them feel more confident about being in the school, about being around each other, and they look forward so much to this every week. And even at this stage, week 3, we're seeing a difference of the way they are in school and the way they're behaving with each other and the way they're interacting with their other friends and staff.
We asked a number of kids and spoke to them about it, and there was a DVD where they could look at what they would be doing during the programme, so they all saw that. And then at the end of the day, it was the 10 that decided, yes, we would like to have a go at this, and that was the 10 that we see here tonight.
I think the school was delighted to be invited to take part in this programme, because we could see immediately the benefits for a smallish group of kids, but never mind a bunch of pupils who will benefit greatly from this programme and will go through the rest of their lives remembering the kind of experiences they got here, and hopefully they're positive and remembering school more positively as well.
One of the weeks is breathing apparatus, where the kids get to wear the same breathing apparatus set as the firefighters do, except if they're not comfortable with it, they just use a blanked out mask. We find it, as the 6 of us here that are instructing the kids, we find it very, very rewarding, and even with talking to the school teachers, they are noticing a difference. From a sort of attendance point of view, it makes them more aware of their own timekeeping, being sort of in a disciplined unit, and also then hopefully gives them an insight into the work we do in the fire service, and then possibly reduce the potential of making hoax calls to the fire service.
Coming up on next week's show, we visit the largest recreational and sports facility in the Highlands, Inverness Leisure, and speak to the people who make it tick. We take a look at what's going to be happening to the Keswick Bridge in the coming months. We meet some groundbreaking builders from Tain Royal Academy, and sculptor Barry Grove gives us a sneak preview of his latest creation.